What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Dollars Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is Jack. Jack, we had a roller coaster of a week, is probably just the best way to describe it. For the Ryder Cup, it looked dim, it looked bleak, it looked disgusting, it looked depressing, but it ended up very exciting. Thoughts on the
Yeah.
week?
Well, first off, it is now from my perspective, the Masters will always be the greatest event in sports. I would rather watch that over anything else. That's just obviously my perspective. Ryder Cup is the most fun to
Yep.
watch. There's a difference. Ryder Cup is the most fun. And I think it's such a cool thing. Um, there's two events that there's really match play. And it's built around the Ryder Cup and it's built around the President's Cup, and people can get behind it, right?
Yeah.
So regardless of if your team is in it or not, it is so exciting to watch. So this was, in my opinion, maybe not the greatest Ryder Cup from a fan perspective, but it might be in the top five Ryder Cups of all time in a different manner, which is crazy. I have some crazy takeaways. A lot of people blame Keegan Bradley. Absolutely not. If you blame Keegan Bradley, you are a toted up idiot.
Yep.
And I will say that until I'm blue in the face. Europe was on fire from the start. Like we did nothing wrong. I mean, granted, yes, did we do stuff wrong? Of course, with a grain of salt, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
But they were on it. They were so good from start to finish. Like we were on fire. I think at one point Russell Henley, who had a putt, obviously the ultimatum wouldn't have changed that much. Um, he made what, eight birdies
Yeah,
and he
he
tied
made
his
eight
match.
birdies in his
In
singles
match
match. Yeah.
play, if you make eight birdies, or I think you finished six or seven under, whatever he did, that is your win. That is a fantastic takeaway. So the fact that he had shot six under or whatever he did, eight birdies and whatnot, and still tied, it's a testament to how good Europe plays from start to finish. Now, granted, my takeaways on Sunday are a lot different compared to everything else, but I think the one thing Europe builds team.
Yeah.
Europe is a team. 11 of your 12 guys, I talked about that last week for probably 15 minutes. You're really building a culture and a community and support. And I think that the only thing that I would have changed from a Keegan Bradley standpoint is not changing pairings outside of Harris English and Colin Morikawa, because that was disgusting.
Yeah, that was
Um,
rough.
but we have so many guys that are popping in and out. And I think that the captain's picks, as much as fans do not want it to be the Jordan Spieths, um, a lot of people are fighting Justin Thomas to Sam Burns. That's the community that needs to be built, and they treat it like a team or a dynasty fantasy league, if that's more your speed. And I have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts, but my God, did USA look freaking great Sunday? And we
Yeah.
always have, but oh man,
Yeah, we've gone like 10 minutes now at this point. Europe did win the Ryder Cup 15-13. It was, what was it, like 11-3 or 11-3.5 or whatever it was after Saturday. It was bleak. It did not look like the Americans were going to score 8 points the whole tournament. But Europe only won one individual match on Sunday. It was Ludwig Gobert over Patrick Cantlay. Everything else was either a tie or an American win. If you look back through the quotes, uh, Keegan talks about, in retrospect, doing Monday morning quarterbacking, he probably does change more of that stuff. A lot of the players, I think that probably didn't play enough that should have played more, and vice versa. But I'll get into that. I do have some report. I call them report cards. But I do have some report cards for the Ryder Cup. I gave grades to basically all of the American players specifically. I didn't give any to the European side because I didn't really get to that portion. I spent a good amount of time yesterday working on this, so I only did the American side. But before we do that, Jack, do you want to go through, talk about your, DraftKings lineup, your bets? How'd you do this past week?
I don't care about DraftKings. Personally, they did fine because I
Yeah.
had some of the top point scorers, so obviously we won money. But that's not really what Ryder Cup. I don't think that. the large majority of people did DraftKings comparatively to what a normal week would do. So I'd rather spend our time everywhere else. But I did win money. We had Bryson and an MVP, which thank God he tied at the end because he was out there. And I will say that if Bryson is not in your top three favorite players in the world right now, something is wrong with you. Um, he is he cares more than anybody else in the PGA Tour, and is incredible. I had Scotty's my second, which sucked, but so did like half of the world, so that
Yep,
kind of mitigated. I had Rom, JJ Spawn, thank gosh, Rasmus Højgaard, who got 0 points in Substraka. So
that's fair. For my DraftKings, I took Rory as an MVP, who again played 5 matches. I played Fleetwood, who had 5 matches. Between the two of them, they went 7-1-2, which is great for my top two guys. Beyond that, it was pretty middling. Victor Hovland, who went 1-1-1. Obviously, he has all the drama behind the fact that he didn't actually play a Sunday match. Matt Fitzpatrick, who went 2-1-1. Ben Griffin, who went 1-1, and then JJ Spawn, who went 2-1. So overall, it was decent. I actually got a pretty good amount of points, mostly due to Rory and Fleetwood because they did so well. But if you followed my DraftKings, you probably won some nice money. But otherwise, again, like Jack says, it's not really what you're rooting for on the Ryder Cup. So that's how'd you do?
I went 1 for 3, which was not my best. But that's why I bet small in the Ryder Cup, and I mentioned that before. I am not a big, well, let me phrase that, I'm a massive golf gambler. But in terms of these events, they are very quirky because it's reliant on multiple things to happen. So my three bets were Rahm to be a top 3 point scorer in Europe, which won at minus 105. I had Bryson being a top three USA point scorer at plus 125. That missed by half a point because there was a tie. And then Scotty top three USA point scorer, which we talked about. It was stupid on my end. We literally both Liam and I both were like, this guy's gonna suck. He's an individual player that doesn't make mistakes. He comes out firing, but a team aspect is different. It all depends who he gets paired with and all this stuff. But to cover my bases, I even said I'm covering my bases should he come out and be Scotty Scheffler at minus 165 on top 3 point scorer. Serving the fact he would play 5 matches, you would think he would get 2 points. Turns out, no. But I mean,
Turns,
best players have always struggled at the Ryder Cup. There's like Tiger Woods did the same things.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I actually did really good this week on bets. I had 4 bets. I got all 4 of them to be wins. Rory McIlroy scored 2 or more points at plus 100, winner. Bryson to score 2 or less points, winner. He scored 1.5, and that was minus 105. JJ Spawn to score 1 or more points at minus 130, winner. And then Rory to score more points than Bryson at minus 120, winner. So overall gained plus 3.55 units on the week. I'm up 6.11 units already on the year, 2 weeks in, which is great. Probably not sustainable, but my goal is going to be to try and continue to, again, hot start for me. I'd love to continue to grow my bank as I move up points. So that's the dream. Wild cards, Jack, how'd you do?
Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, before I express the joy that I have, I would like you all to realize that Jack made a fatal error in gambling on this.
Hmm.
Most of my wild cards, I put very small money on it because I just simply don't care. I accidentally put $50 on this first wild card, and Liam and I were at a wedding over the weekend, and let's just say this paid for my girlfriend and I's entire weekend. Jack accidentally put $50 on Bryson to hit the opening tee shot for USA at plus 1,000. He was meant to put $5, as I basically do like half of my unit for all my wild cards because hypothetically I anticipate them hitting.
Yeah.
Jack won some fantastic money, so yeah, I know that doesn't count toward the overall net bets, and my bankroll. It was spectacular.
Nice free
Sounds
weekend, kid. Nice free weekend.
Yeah, and again, for anybody that doesn't know, like we record this podcast on Monday nights. Today's Tuesday that we're doing it because we were both tied up.
Yeah.
Like that the odds were plus 1,000. You're like, well, he was in the first group. He should have been like minus 110. This was placed Monday morning before pairings were announced, before times were announced. It was crazy. So when I saw that it was Bryson and JT off the gate, I texted Liam in a panic. I was like, oh my God. But I had 2 others, Russell Henley to be the top debutante at plus 200 and JJ Spawn to be the top debutante plus 425. Russell Henley played fantastic in a lot of senses and awful in others, so I won't really talk about him. JJ Spawn was a monster. He should be so incredibly proud of himself.
Oh yeah.
But Camo just came out and just steamrolled everything. So hard to be mad at the guy that does that performance. So
Yeah. Again, great win on the Bryson at the opening tee shot. My wild card was Cam Young to be the top rookie, which he was. It was plus 240. So that was a nice win. I now have one win, one loss on wild cards. So that's again great to see that we were able to go 2 for 4 on wild cards this week. As far as winners go, obviously Jack and I had opposite ends of the coin. He had Europe, I had USA. Jack won at what was it, plus 240 you had it at. So congrats on Jack for the win. Coming into Sunday, I think I had already written loss down on my USA bet, so I almost had to go back there and change it, which would have been absolutely hilarious.
And real
I
quick,
have
for those who don't understand, lift the trophy versus like Liam picking USA to win. In the Ryder Cup, you can technically tie. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. You can technically tie and retain the trophy. And if you're wondering why that odds are so high, I mentioned on the podcast, if you had FanDuel Sportsbook, they were offering a bonus for who would lift the trophy, and I selected that. So the odds would have been lower, but I'm telling you what I bet. So plus 248, which is a win on the year.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna quickly roll through some of the report cards or some
Screw
of
the
the
report
report.
card. Screw the report card, ladies and
All
gentlemen.
right.
We're going to talk about the envelope rule because that is such a stupid rule.
Yep.
And here's my opinion on it because it matters because my name is Jack and you've tuned in to listen to me. Just kidding. But right, there's two things. One, it's a rule that's been in place for ever and it's only been used 3 times. My thoughts on it are it's fine to have, but two things. If it's on a Sunday, you either have to forfeit the match, which a forfeit should be a loss. Now, you can't fault somebody for injury, and Victor Hovland has been injured a number of times, so I don't think this was premeditated. They had it like a 9 point lead. I don't remember what it is offhand. They were not worried about Team USA. I'm gonna be
Oh yeah.
honest. They
Yeah.
were not. So like anybody that's saying they did it on purpose, I don't think there's any stretch of the word. You have to also think Victor Hovland has missed significant time already in the past, and doing it at an event that they should have won easily is not like the biggest priority. So like pause on that,
Yep.
right? But it's also, I think, unfair to have alternates, but you should bring them because at the same time, you're giving somebody an opportunity um, to come out to the Ryder Cup, be a part of the team, and then say you're only coming in on this hyper specific rule. Do I think that there will be 1,000 people on both sides that would jump at that opportunity? Yes. I think within the next 2 Ryder Cups, that rule will change into some form of that, but I don't think it was any recourse in terms of Ryder Cup because Harris English, I don't know if could have beat a mob at the Ryder Cup.
How many wild cards do you or how many like reserve wild card in case of
You do
emergency
want
players do you just one?
just one, because otherwise
Okay.
the Ryder Cup is not it's a selection, right? You are honored to be there, and if you open it up to be like an NFL roster, it loses its spectacle.
What's the process then? Is that just another captain's pick?
Captain's pick.
Okay.
Alternate, you are captain's pick. Probably would have been Matt Wallace, right?
Yep.
Probably would have been Keegan Bradley could have done it. I
Could have
don't
been
know.
could have been Keegan, could have been Matt McNeely, could have been one of
Yeah, it could
those
have been a
guys.
lot
Yeah.
of things, but you travel with the team and you're basically only there for Sunday, which
Fair.
sucks.
That's fair. No, I agree with you on that. I don't have too many thoughts on the envelope rule. I mean, Harris English played pretty shitty most of the weekend. So the fact that he technically got that half a point on Sunday, probably, I mean, shoot, he might have
Just for
lost
the
it,
for everybody at home, Harris English with that half a point, not even playing at that point, had more points than the number one player in the world.
which is crazy. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna call out like my top 2 or 3 favorite guys though, because I think Cam Young played spectacular on the Ryder Cup. He went 3-1. He played great. He was one of the only Americans who got to 3 points. I think it was him and Xander. Don't I think it was Xander. And he played great statistically too. He gained like 5.5 or 6 strokes. He had a ton of pressure because he was a hometown guy. I thought JJ Spawn was great. I gave him an A- rating. He went 2-1. He played bad, I think, that first day with Scotty, but he played great otherwise. And then honestly, I think that Bryson probably was my only other like big A. I give Xander a B plus, so he was close. But I think Bryson kind of took on that role of like big leader. He went out and faced Rory. He faced a lot of like the big names throughout the week, so he did good. Worst players: Sam Burns, uh, probably Henley, and then, I mean, I guess Harris English, maybe Morikawa, depending on how you ask. I think any combination of those four were awful this week, and you could have swapped them out with somebody else, and I wouldn't have even noticed. So that's the highlight. If we want, I can go through, and I'll go through this another time, but this is going to be a long episode, anyways. So with that, Jack, let's go into Sanderson Farms.
Oh, goody.
I know, aren't you so excited? This is a par 72 totaling 7,460. Last year's winner was Kevin Yu. This is back to a full field event. We got both the Hoygars in the field. We've got some decent names. Rasmus just stayed in the field, right? Even though he just played in the Ryder Cup, although he barely played. So yeah, he's probably still here. There are two things that stand out statistically, both approach play and putting. Both are top 10 amongst all courses on the PGA Tour circuit. So those are going to be quite important this week. And then this field is going to be pretty rough, and it's probably how it's going to be the next like 4 to 5 weeks because players ranked between 50 and 250 in the OWGR are all trying to figure out what status they have next season. So it's not going to be like the Rorys and the Scotties and the Cam Youngs and everybody else's of the world. It's going to be a lot of lower players. So with that, how do you want to do this, Jack? Because Akshay's alone at the top at 10K. Do you just want to comment any thoughts on Akshay or skip right to 9K?
Yeah, I think Akshay is going to have a really good week. I think for him personally, this is a bounce back year for him. It has to be. He started off really, really well. Waste Management, AT&T, Genesis Mexico players, and then really fell into a rough stretch. And by rough, it's not like bad, right? He finished like 40, 42nd, right around there, and really came into at the end there with FedEx Tour Championship and going into ProCure, where he actually gained his second best putter round in his last 25 starts. So I think that's a really good momentum builder. And for Akshay as well, he has the ability to get to 24 under, which puts him into contention a lot of times. Now, I will say that Sanderson is a event that is all over the place, and he has actually missed a cut in half of his starts, which are two. One was 2020, and then he played 2 years ago where he finished 43rd. He lost around the green, and he lost on approach by a long shot, which he hasn't done in his last 14 starts. So, like, I'm envisioning, again, he is 23 years old, so we've been 21 and 17 or 18 or what, 21 and 18 at that time. He is now seasoned. He has a win in the PGA Tour. Actually, he has two. He's so much better than what he was. I envision him really having a great week. You don't need to be a big bomber here. So him being right around the statistical medium for driving distance the PGA Tour, which is now around 300 yards, so you're not driving peanuts, right? His accuracy should put him in some good spots, and if he has a good putter week like he did last, he's dangerous.
Yeah, he's gained on approach in 11 of his last 12 starts, which is great. He has lost with the putter in 7 of his last 11. But if he has one of his good putting weeks, he's probably finishing top 20 this week. So that I don't hate going to him. He's probably not my preferred choice in every circumstance. But I totally understand if he's top of your lineup. So 9K range, we start off with Kevin Yu at 9,900, down to Rico Hoey at 9,000. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
So a couple things right away. Number one, I hate to say this because I think the I'm listening to a golf podcast world will hate me on here, but pause on Minwoo Lee. Pause, pause, pause. He is doing the same pattern which we bought into last year, myself included, where he goes out, he has one good showing at a PGA Tour event, which was the Rocket Mortgage, sucks at a major, sucks at the next PGA Tour event, goes to Europe to get some confidence, has some incredible finishes, and then we all go, "Oh my God, Min Woo Lee is back. Himothy, Hin Woo Lee, he's back. Incredible." This guy cannot putt on US soil. This event is a putter's contest. This is a putting contest. That's why, Kevin Yu, who we talk about, is like one of the best drivers of the golf ball, even if you don't believe it. If you look at the event where he won, the time he won, his putter was on fire. You take a look at him on US soil, and it is just atrocious comparatively. And you're taking a look at his accuracy numbers, which are drastically decreased comparatively to when he was dominating at the beginning of the year, like AT&T, Waste Management. I think he did finish like top 25 of the players. Pause on Minwoo Lee because his price is very, very elevated. Now, there are guys that I like Michael Thorbjornsen, who finished 13th at the Procure, 14th at ISCO, 21 John Deere, 4th at Rocket Mortgage. This guy is so solid, and his approach game throughout the last calendar year has been really, really consistent for another 24-year-old. But I think his putter has gotten so much better over the last year. Last year, his putter was nothing. He was all over the place. He ranked in the bottom statistically in a lot of putter contacts or statistics. Now, he's not the best putter in the world. He's still right around above average. But in terms of growth over the last year, I think he's one of those guys that you can really look at. Um, Rico Hoey, though, is one of the guys that I am like on on this week. He might be one of the worst putters I've ever seen in the history of the PGA Tour. Like he has lost over 2.5 shots around, like 4 times or 5 times in his last 20. He almost lost 4 at the Amex this year and still made the cut. That is almost statistically impossible to. I physically don't know how that. I can look at you in the eyes and physically say I don't know how that's possible. This guy is a nutcase off the tee and with approach. If he can get anywhere close to the middle of the green, this guy has the ability to go deep, and he's done this a number of times. Procure finishing 9th, losing with the putter. Barracuda 8th, losing with the putter. John Deere Classic 11th, losing 1.5 shots around with the putter. Myrtle Beach 7th, losing half a shot around with the putter. This guy has the ability to do it. I would not sleep on him. And then last guy, because Jack needs oxygen, is Nikolai Højgaard. Now, Rasmus obviously was just in the Ryder Cup and got 0 points, so I think his confidence is a little nuked. Obviously, if you take a look at Nikolai Højgaard and you pull him up in draft, he's going to go, oh, he's missed his last 2 cuts. He sucks, right? Those are the 2 biggest events in the DP World Tour, basically after the event's over. You take a look at his last finishes on U.S. soil. Wyndham, not the best in the world, but Open 14th, Genesis 14th, Rocket 24th, Zurich 2nd. A big theme of a lot of those, it goes deep in terms of scoring. I think that this guy is a tremendous putter, and I think his approach play is so much better than what he did the last 2 weeks. Much like Rico Hoey, all he has to do is get it up in layman's terms. Good spot on the fairway, put himself in the green because he is one of the most accurate players of this generation. And I think he can really build on this last year because at 24 years old, he's right around the top 90 of the OWGR. He'll be inside the top 50 by the end of this year. Oof.
All right, Jack talked a lot there. And the first thing he did was bash Minwoo Lee. And look, I don't think he's that bad of an option. His approach play probably is about average, but his off the tee and his putting are good enough to probably carry the rest of his game. Again, Jack's been highlighting he's been playing a little bit on Euro Tour. He's got back-to-back T11 finishes on there, which I know the story is that he does well on Euro Tour and then he does bad back on the PGA Tour. But if you look at last year, he's got 4 missed cuts. It's the API, it's the PGA, it's the US Open, and it's the Open. It's 3 majors and then one of the better events of the year. When you look at like relatively weak fields that he's been in, Cognizant Classic last year, T11, Children's Houston Open, winner.
Did you call Cognizant a weak event?
Cognizant Classic, the
old Honda Classic?
Did you just the old Honda last year that was not an elevated event? Yeah, I'm going to stand up business on that. It was the Cognizant Classic. I think the best name there was Shane Lowry. Rocket Classic, T13. Like he's got great finishes in these like major level type of events where not everybody and their mother is showing up. So I'm okay going
to the golf community because my cohort just dismissed the Honda Classic. You can dismiss the name, but that is a staple event on the PGA Tour.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad event. I'm saying that the field was weaker than like a major level field. Don't twist my words. That's not what I'm going for.
I don't think the field was weak.
it wasn't like it's not like ISCO level week, but it's also not like a major field. There was like 3 or 4 big names in that field. That's what I'm going for there. Semantics. The point being is would you rather have him against the Genesis or the Cognizant slash Honda?
I'm not saying he will not do well this week. I'm just saying his price is extremely elevated because of the field size, and he gets in this habit where his price elevates because he does well in these European Tour events, and we buy into it. Would I love to see him win and see TikTok edits of him for the next 4 days? Of course. Is the reality of that happening? I don't believe so, and that's why we have so many uh, great things that can happen in this game of golf because at the same time, you could have John Smith, who just graduated from Vanderbilt, come out and steamroll this event by 4.
All right. Well, I like Minwoo this week. Also, look at Davis Thompson. He's the third best tee green player in the field in his last 100 rounds, only behind Rico Hoey and Doug Gim. Most of that's basically been due to great ball striking. He's got a pretty brutal putting stretch last year between the PGA and the John Deere, but he's actually gained the putter in 4 of his last 6. So he may have found something. So he could be an option. And then I will also mention Rico Hoey. When you reset all golfers back to their 100 round baseline, he's like one of the best off the tee and approach players in this field. Jack talked about it. He's an awful putter, but he was a 0 putter at Napa at the Procore, and because of that, he finished like T17 or whatever he was. So if he does that, he could probably finish top 10 here again in this field. So in the 8K range we go. Alex Smalley at 8,900 down to Mark Hubbard at 8,000. Who do you like here?
I'm going to take a different route. I think everyone sucks. I think I'm going to tell you who not to go to, and that's a little bit different. Number one, I would not go to Luke Clanton. I think it's an easy bid to go, oh my God, I remember him going out and dominating at, was it the RSM Classic, right? Where he fired
Yeah,
up his first
it was
couple
one.
events. I think people forget that was November of 2024. He comes out, Cognizant finishes great. Um, Outside of college and amateur level events, basically since um, if you really want to take it that back to Valspar, which was March, he hasn't finished inside the top 30 of a PGA Tour event and has missed 3 other cuts, has lost with the putter in 6 consecutive, around the green in 6 of his last 7, approach in his last 3, off the tee in 3 of his last 7, and total in 11 of his last 12. So I think the Luke Clanton, we saw a sophomore slump, and what usually happens when guys go through that is they try to change, which we saw Jordan Spieth do. We watched Justin Thomas we do. We watched Patrick Cantlay do a little bit. So I think he's right now going through a little bit of a change. And I think that a lot of casual gamblers, again, I'm just talking about DFS, casual gamblers will remember that. Oh my God, he had that one event a year and almost an entire year ago. I'm going to put him in my lineup. And I think we need to pause on that. It also hurts me to say that Kashmir Keith Mitchell is a guy that you should probably avoid with a 40-foot pole. Yes, did he finish third here last year? He did. Did he miss his 4 consecutive cuts at this event before that? He did. And you really take a look at his last stretch, which is 53, cut, 50, 44, cut. He has not shown me anything in any stretch of the word where you can get to him. You take a look, he's lost in putter in his last 3 and 5 of his last 7, approach in 4 of his last 6, around the green in 4 of his last 6, off the tee in multiple stretches here, and has only gained in the last 10 events that he's had. His best stretch is not even a shot strokes gained. He lost almost 6 shots at the Rocket Mortgage. So you're taking a look at a guy that has a massive name recognition, that field that is very low. You are going to see a lot of casual gamblers in your DFS. If you're playing like $5 a pop, you're going to see a lot of people go to him. And I just don't think that's the case. And I think you should avoid him.
That's fair. I don't plan on looking at either of those guys. I don't even realize it too at the time when I look at it. Clanton is like 21. Dude's still like a child.
Mhm.
He just turned 21. He can barely drink. So it's wild whenever I think about that. There's a couple guys I don't hate in this range. Max Homa, he's got a T19 at Napa. He played good with both the putter and the approach play. I think he could be a good option this week. He's also gained on approach in 5 straight starts. He's also got 3 top 40s in his last 5 starts too. maybe catch, Homa early in this weak field when he's not like 10K. Could be an option this week. Garrick Higgo has put together some good rounds. He was pretty good at Procore. He finished T7. He's a little errant off the tee, but he can get away with it here. Pretty good putter. He's volatile, of course, because again, he still might not be able to find the planet when it comes to off the tee this week. But if he does that, he could be an exciting option. And then I'll mention Matt Wallace, 8100. He was the 13th, maybe 14th man, if you're crazy, on the European side for the Ryder Cup. Nearly played himself into the 12th spot too. But he's played 4 times on the Euro Tour since the end of the season. He's made all 4 cuts. He had a top 4, I want to say, at the European Masters. He has these really good spike weeks, pretty good putter. You're just kind of hoping for one of those this week, especially at the low 8K range. So, all right, into the 7K range we go. We have Steven Yeager at 7,900 down to, oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. Joel Dahmen, 7,000. What do you got?
Shout out. I'll talk about a couple guys and I'll pass it off because I can talk forever. But number one is Christian Bezuidenhout. Bezuidenhout, if you are an OG member of this establishment. Played here twice, 39-6. Like, this course really plays to his strengths, and I think at the end there, he had a very mediocre finish. He had an awful stretch in the middle there and was really coming back. I think he was fighting something, much how I talked about with Luke Langton, of going through a swing change, a mechanic change, or really trying to figure something out. He has had multiple weeks off from playing golf, but his last couple starts for the PGA Tour, 13, 34, and 20. He is basically like right around his lane, let's say zeroed across the board on pretty much everything. He is, if you really break it down, one of the best around the green and putters comparatively to his driving distance and approach, which really mitigate him. You take a look at there's basically a circle of 5 major statistical categories: driving distance, accuracy, approach around the green, and putting. He is above tour average on 4 of them. The only one is missing is driving distance. You take a look at the guys that have won this event in the past, most of them are not bombers. So I think this could be a really unique event for him where I think he might be able to break out of that shell. We've talked about him a number of times. And I think he can get back to a better year. I also really like might be a little bit of a different stretch, but Ricky Castillo this week. Ricky Castillo is a guy that a lot of people have not shined on because he is obviously very young. He's very raw. A lot of Corn Ferry starts and then middling finishes on PGA Tour, but he has finished top 25 in a number of events last year, notably a lot of lower tier events, Barracuda, Zurich, which really I don't even count, Wyndham in some cases, and he did really well at the Byron Nelson, the Valspar, and he's really good off the tee and approach. He's actually improved his accuracy numbers almost by 48% compared to this time last year, which again, Corn Ferry Tour stats are a little bit different, but accuracy measures are statistics. It's not really anything that's opinionated. And he's really shown to putt really well on very slow greens. This event, very slow green. So if you take a look at his putting statistics, it'll be very, very well below tour average. But I think that if you really try to dig into the data and look into it, I think this could be a week where he might even gain probably a shot around with the putter. And if you're giving me this odds and this price for a guy that has this upside, I think you can get there. I think he's probably a really viable option. And then last guy I'll say before I pass it off, well, I guess there's 2. If Tom Kim doesn't make the cut here, I think he's going to have to do some soul searching here. But I do think Rio Hisasune, another guy that we've talked about a large number of times. I've actually been high on him for years, even though he's like 23. He had some incredible finishes and incredible starts last year. He sucked with the approach play to end the year. He has had he took a little bit of time off, took over a month off, figured out a lot of stuff in his game, and finished 13th in Procure, which is an event that he probably shouldn't have done as well as he did, which was really good. Gained everywhere statistically except for distance. Coming into an event, distance is really mitigated. I think this can be a guy you target if you really want to, but I'll pass it off because I could talk for years.
Fair enough. I'm going to start off with Jesper Svensson. He actually fits this course quite well based on his approach play. His putter is going to be kind of a question. He's the only guy who's worse than like Rico Hoey when it comes to the putter, but he's got the same style of like really good approach playing off the tee. So you're basically looking for a slightly cheaper version of Rico Hoey, 7,700. Jesper Svensson's an option. I didn't hate William Mao at 7,700 either, but he just withdrew, so I won't highlight him too much. Sammy Valimaki, he missed the cut on the number at the Procore. But in his last 14 rounds, he's gained nearly 25 strokes gained approach. He's also gained with the putter in 2 of his last 4. He's an interesting option to go to this week. I want to say he's like, what, low 7Ks. So if he makes a cut, you're okay with that. And then we get to Mac Meisner.
Yep.
Meisner? Okay. He finished the year great last year. He played all right in Napa as well, outside of basically a bad putter for 2 days. For this price, he's a pretty good buy. He's also like a prime example of a guy who played great at the end of the year, who also played good at Procore. So if you're like, I want somebody who's been playing good for the last like 8 weeks, including like a couple weeks ago, Mac's probably your guy. I will mention Antoine Rosner. He's slightly like reliant on the putter almost at that point at this point, but it's pretty all right here. Like that's kind of what you want. But he also picks up strokes gained on approach. He's off the tee is super rough. Like he does not hit the ball very far, but that's fine at this tournament. He could be a good option in this range considering he's gained on approach and putting in 3 straight starts, all leading to 3 straight top 33 finishes. I think he's a good choice. Jack highlighted Tom Kim. I am very off of him this week. He has lost on approach in 8 of his last 10 starts and with his putter in 7 of his last 10 starts. Does he potentially have a chance here on a course that doesn't require driving distance? Sure. Am I going to rely on it based on how bad the approach and putting is? Absolutely not. So with that 6K range, we go. We have Thurston Lawrence at 6,900 down to, oh boy, is that Ryan Palmer at 6,000? Yeah, it is. We'll take it. Sure.
A couple guys in here. Again, this is one of those events that I will say, don't be surprised if some random guy that you've never heard of before finishes top 5. This is it's called a golfer's event. And what that means is if you are a caliber golfer, it's going to be a birdie and a putting fest. So getting yourself in these good spots, a lot of these, I'll say lower tier guys can go deep. Cristobal del Solar shot 58 in a Corn Ferry Tour event. These guys can go deep. You think they're bums and they're trash because they're 6K and we are desensitized as people to think that's bad. Aaron Wise was a massive, massive PGA Tour golfer who just had his career derailed. Camilo Villegas, monster. Tim Whiting, massive on the DP World Tour. Like these guys are so solid. But I digress. Thomas Rosenmuller, Corn Ferry stud, coming out, 1 Corn Ferry, 3 other wins worldwide. Really trying to boom and grow his career in the PGA Tour. He's made 5 consecutive cuts in 6 of his last 7, which I think is really, really good. Big one is he's lost a lot with the putter, but his off the tee game and approach game has been extremely solid. He is one of the most accurate players that is outside of the top 150 OWGR. And I think that having that under his belt and really being able to progress in terms of the putter is a lot easier than progressing on strokes gained. We take a look at what Scotty Scheffler did. You have to find the right putter coach, and I think you can really progress that way. Outside of that, I think there's 2 guys that you might be able to go to, and I would not recommend them. I would not stake them, but number 1 is Michael Assasso. Michael Assasso is like 1 for 7 or something like that on cuts, but he has proven to be extremely, 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 extremely solid all around his rounds. It's course management. That's the big difference. And if you really take a look, if you're a data person like Liam, it's really hard to take a look at that because you see 1 for 6. You're like, oh, he's there, he's bad, yada, yada, yada. He gained on the PGA Tour season plus 1.3 shots, strokes gained. That is impressive for a guy that played very little amounts. He was trying to do his best. And he looked really, really good at the end of his stretch there. So there's another guy. Where's my other guy? Frankie Sappin is also another guy that has sucked. There's no stretch around it. He's made 1 cut since May of 2025. He's really good with the putter. He's really good with the putter. Everything else is very questionable. Very good with the putter. But I think one guy that I think if you're really looking for a storyline, Jackson Suber, he's one of the only Missouri guys in the entire PGA Tour. And he's very solid all around. One of the biggest flaws for his game is approach. Everywhere is pretty mediocre, but he's looked really solid with the putter, getting in 7 of his last 9. So if you really take a look at a differential, there are some things that you can look at for here. I wouldn't try to get to any of these guys if you can, but I understand that with name recognition, DFS works out a little bit differently.
Yeah, I'd prefer, if at all possible, to avoid the 6K range. I mean, Jack highlighted a couple of guys that could be good, but I think the challenge with the 6K range is you're taking a lot of either high upside swings on young guys, or you're taking guys that have kind of floated between Euro Tour, Corn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour status. I'll mention Lipsky, who was disappointing at the Pro Tour, but prior to that, he'd gained on approach in 8 straight starts, so I don't hate going him. He's definitely not my first choice, though. I think maybe my favorite guy in the region is Chandler Phillips. He's top 5 in this field on approach play from within 150 yards, which will be a high metric when it comes to this event. He's also a solid putter. He's in the top 5K of this 6K range. So of the golfers in the 6K range, he's top 5 in this range in the last 100 rounds in strokes gained putting. I think he's viable. His off the tee is not spectacular. You don't need that this week though. So he's one of the few options that I like. Jack highlighted Michael Assasso. Even though the numbers don't look good, you just kind of have some eye test with him that you think
That
that
kid's got
he's,
swagger.
yeah, like
If you're
he's got
wearing 4-inch
something.
shorts to your practice round, you got swagger.
Well, yeah, that's a word to describe it. So yeah, I think he could be a viable option, but again, I think it's Chandler Phillips is the only guy I'd probably personally want to go to in the 6K range. So, DraftKings lineup, Jack, what are we looking at this week?
Nothing good. It is Akshay Bhatia at 10,100, Nikolai Højgaard at 9,100, Rico Hoey 9,000. I did bite the bullet. Ricky Castillo 7,400, Mac Meissner 7,200, and then Michael Assasso 6,600. I think he has a 45% chance of making the cut. And if you're giving me that at 600 above the lowest price that you can physically go, I think you have to try and take those odds.
Yeah, totally fair. For me, I went Minwoo Lee 9,700, Emiliano Grillo 9,300, Max Homa at 8,400, Matt Wallace at 8,100, Christian Bezuidenhout at 7,600. Who did you mention, or did we not even get into?
I mentioned
I was gonna say, I was like, we I'm sure you mentioned it, but I was like, his putter's been always been great. And then I have Chandler Phillips at 6,800. So those are my 6 there. FanDuel, what you got?
pretty similar. It's Batia, 12,000, Akshay Batia, Michael Thorbjornsen, 11,600, Nikolai Højgaard, 10,900, Rico Hoey, 10,800, Jackson Super, 7,600, and then Frankie Sappin, 7,000. I got him at a lot less percentage of 45, but his putter really holds true, and I think that he might do the reverse and really have some rounds under his belt. I think he might calm himself down, really play a little more timid of a game and put himself for success. And if his putter is that good, he has a chance. So I'm biting Stoneman there.
It's fair. For my FanDuel, I did Minwoo Lee at 11,400, Rico Hoey at 10,800, Emiliano Grillo at 10,500, Garrick Higo at 9,600, Christian Bezuidenhout at 9,400, and then Chandler Phillips at 8,200. So that's what you got.
Awesome. I have 5 bets this week. Only one positive. But first one is Thomas Rosenmueller to make the cut, -175. Talked about him a little bit throughout the course of the day. I just think that he has set himself up for success. Let me try to pull up the stat that I have about him and really take a look. Outside of his putter, his approach playing off the tee has been spectacular over the course of his, I think it's his actually, that was his rookie year. So I anticipate him building on that. Secondarily, I have Nikolai Højgaard top 40 at -137. I think he has a lot more confidence, a lot more to build on than his brother, who was even just in the Ryder Cup. So I love those odds. Rico Hoey top 40 at -150. Ricky Castillo top 40 at +100. And I have Keith Mitchell, which hurts to even say, 39th or worse at -120. If you really take a look real quick, because I know we're running late here, the last time he finished 39th or better was June 8th of 2025.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to be top 39. Yeah, we haven't placed that good in forever. So All right, for
Oh,
my bets,
sorry. Last thing about Keith Mitchell, real quick. Yes, he did have top three, but he's missed four other cuts here outside of that. Sorry.
for mine, I have 5 bets, and I've highlighted all of them before in previous discussions, so I'll just go through them real quick. Benny On over Tom Kim at -130. Matt Wallace over Seamus Power and David Skins at +120. Max Homa over Cam Champ at -120. Matt Wallace over Keith Mitchell at -115. And JT Poston over Kevin Yu at +120. So, wild card, what do you got this week?
I have probably I think the odds are a little bit wild on this, but playoff is +350. This being a golfer's event, anyone can pop off at any single time. This event has had 3 consecutive playoffs and 4 in the last 6. This is going to be just a putter fest, and I don't think there's going to be a guy that runs away with it and wins it by 3 shots. There's no massive, massive names in here. Not a lot of guys that have multiple wins under their belt that outside of like the guys that are older. So I envision this being very, very close. So I'm taking playoff +350. 4 out of the last 6, three in a row going to the fourth. I think that is well deserving of better than +350. So I'm taking that.
That's fair. For my wild card, I have Antoine Rosner, top 30 at +225. Again, I've highlighted him previously, but 3 straight top 33 finishes, good on approach and with putting. He's got to pick up 3 spots in that average in terms of top 33s, and +225, pretty good numbers. So, winners, Jack, what you got?
I got 3. Not crazy in terms of wild card, as we normally do, but I don't think this event really calls for that. I have Akshay Patia, who's the leader at 20-1, Rico Hoey 35-1, and Nikolai Højgaard 35-1.
Fair. For my winners, I took Emiliano Grillo, 37-1, Max Homa at 32-1, and then a guy I didn't really highlight, but Taylor Montgomery is one of the better putters in this field. So if he manages to figure out the rest of his game at 100-1, he could very well be one of those sneaky like 6K range guys that flirt up with the top 5. He has done it before, so I like him at 100-1. All right. Beyond that, that is the Sanderson and the Ryder Cup. Sorry for the long podcast, but a lot to catch up on there. Next week, we have the Bay Current Classic, which I couldn't tell you where they pulled this event from. I think I remember seeing that it's in Asia, maybe? Yeah, Yokohama Country Club. I want to say that was Asia, right? Japan, probably.
If you're asking this a question, I thought it was a statement. It is Japan.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was like, no. All right, so we'll be back next week for the Bay Current. Beyond that, we'll see you all there. Good luck, good betting, and we'll see you next week.
Deuce.